and the defined benefit as far as who it's appropriate for nowadays, because really what's happened is the defined benefit plan has sort of fallen out of favor in general.
In a lot of cases
yeah.
there have been limits. They have increased some of the limits in recent years, and it's really most appropriate for a business owner that may not have ever saved anything for retirement. They've been working all these years, and now they're at a position where they have some funds that they can put away and try to fund their retirement in a shorter period of time, right before retirement.
So if they're a real high income individual, so like a surgeon or something like that, somebody who's got a very high income that comes at a regular basis, again, he may not have been able to provide much for his retirement before for whatever reason.
Correct.
And now he wants to be able to put aside some substantial amounts, very big amounts.
Correct.
You can do that with a defined benefit type plan. Again, if he's got younger employees on an actuarial basis, he doesn't have to put as much money aside for them.
Correct.
And so again, he's able to put more sizable contributions for himself, and so it really favors that sort of a scenario as opposed to the big company thing. So like IBM, they said, we just can't afford this anymore.
Right, and that's unfortunately what's happened with some of those companies. But in a smaller company where they have the funds to be able to put away, I mean, the limits in a profit sharing or 401k is $49,000 on an individual basis. Defined benefit plans, depending on how it's structured, I've had them 100,000, 150, 200,000, quote unquote, being put away for an individual in a year. So that's a substantial amount of money.
Yeah. So I've had people that they've sort of had windfall income, and they said, what can I do to shelter this thing? So I said, well, maybe if you think that you can do well for several years, think about putting it into a defined benefit type plan.
Right.
Sometimes those don't work out so well because things don't always go according to plan.
Well, in any of these plans, if things change, which, recently business things have changed for a lot of people, you can't always, terminate it and pay it out and roll it over to an IRA if need be.
Now, another feature related to these that we want to remind people about is, in fact, that you can use combinations of these plans.
Yes, especially since the Pension Reform Act of 2006, they've greatly expanded the ability to use a 401k profit sharing plan with a defined benefit plan. And so you get the best of both worlds. One way you can maximally fund if you're in the right type of business on both of them. And but also you still provide the 401k benefit for the employees that are younger that may want to put money in. So that's attractive to them, while the owner is able to put a substantial amount away for them in a defined benefit plan. Right.
Now that isn't an option though, like for a simplified employee plan, the SEP IRA.
No, the one thing about one of the downsides of a SEP or a simple is that you cannot have any other kind of plan but that plan. You can't have any combination of plans with that. That's the only kind of plan you can have during the year.
Right. Another thing that we haven't talked about yet, and I don't think it's even on our list here, but anyway, is the Roth type feature. And this is something that's fairly new in the 401k area.
Correct, yeah. It's just been since 2006 that you could do what's called a Roth 401k. So you're not deducting any money, but conversely, like a Roth IRA, you're able to take the money out at the back end at the retirement time and not pay any taxes at all.
Yeah.
So if you're younger and you put money away and you have a huge accumulation of gain, that's where it really becomes important there.
Right. So there's the thing about there's that conflict. People want to get the tax deduction.
Right.
And so, and it does help in a sense to fund the contribution, that you get this tax deduction, so you're getting, if you will, a reduced tax bill.
Correct.
And so that's helping to pay that in. On the other hand, especially for much younger employees, but with life expectancies these days, you don't even have to be necessarily 60. Could be 59.
Well, they say 60 is new 30.
Whatever, yeah. So it can actually stretch out to quite a long time, and especially again if you've got good health and so on.
Right.
So it's worth really seriously thinking about. And then there's the ability, when the employee terminates or what have you, that they can actually roll those Roth 401k funds into a Roth IRA. now you've got total flexibility as far as how you invest those
Correct.
funds, and during your lifetime, you don't even have to take a distribution.
No.
Whereas for the Roth 401k, once you reach 70 and a half, you still do have
Correct.
to take
You have
distributions.
to take a distribution out. That's true.
So anyway, so it's a new option, a new alternative that's there that's really worth seriously thinking about. And if other employers are like me, they're probably slow about adopting these things and getting them going. But when you have younger employees, I think you really should seriously look at giving them that ability. It does create some accounting headaches, though.
It's not too bad, actually.
Yeah, for the
You just account for it like you do another account, like
Yeah.
like a match or like a profit sharing, and just keep track of it that way. So,
Yeah.
and you can mix and match. You could put part regular 401k where you deduct it, and part Roth where you don't deduct it.
Yeah.
You can do a combination. So.
Yeah. So anyway, so this is a new choice, and so I hope our viewers will keep that in mind and think about it for themselves. Okay, well, say you decide you want to have one of these retirement plans. How do you go about having a plan created?
Well, you have to have a plan. You got to have
Yeah.
a plan document, and depending on what kind of plan, it's different volumes of paper.
Uh-huh.
But you have to write a plan document because there's certain rules and regulations you have to follow.
Mm-hmm.
And there's different ways of doing it. You can get a short plan at a brokerage house or someplace like that. And again, you're kind of on your own. You've got to fill it out and hopefully follow it correctly. Or if you go to a third-party administrator, they'll have a prototype or volume submitter plan, which generally covers just about everything you could possibly do in a plan. And it's a little more expensive, but you can write it the way you want it for eligibility or how you pay people out and those types of things. And also, you can invest your money anywhere you want. Most of the time when you're a brokerage house, you're going to have to keep your funds there at that
That's
particular
right,
place.
yeah.
And ultimately, you could have a custom plan, individually designed, written by an ERISA attorney. And generally, those are only going to be when you have some real specific needs, or it's required, like an employee stock ownership plan, that it has to be an individual document. So, and it's much more expensive. So I kind of started with the least expensive and ended up with the most expensive as far
Yeah.
as.
So one is like the cookie
descriptions.
cutter, and you can get it like you go to the bank or you go to a brokerage house, and as you said, the idea though is that those funds are going to be held through wherever you've got that document.
Correct.
And then and so you have less flexibility as far as how you invest those funds.
Correct.
Because it's just going to be whatever investments that they offer. If a bank, it's going to be a savings account or a CD or something like that.
Correct.
If you go to a brokerage account, it's going to be their mutual funds.
It's going to be their
whatever.
account.
Yeah, yeah.
It's going to be, you have to do your trading there and that type of stuff.
Right.
So.
And then there are some people, especially these days, or maybe I should say, maybe this is going to cool off a little bit, but for a while it was becoming pretty hot for people to think about putting real estate in accounts. And
It's possible.
yeah,
it is something that that the Internal Revenue Service looks at as to how
Yeah.
much you have
right.
in a particular investment. So
Right.
you can have some real estate, but you put a substantial amount in, and then they want to make sure you know what you're doing. So
Okay. Well, let's talk about, for a few minutes, what are the non-discrimination rules that some employers have to deal with, and top-heavy rules, and how do they interrelate with plan administration?
okay, well, I'll tackle top heavy first. That's the easiest. Basically, it's if 60% of the assets in the plan are in the owner's accounts, the plan's top heavy. 25, 30 years ago, it meant a great deal. It was a different way you ran plans. They've since pretty much made everything in top heavy effective for all plans.
Oh, have they?
The biggest item is that there's some minimum funding.
Uh-huh.
3% funding if the owner is getting 3% or more.
Uh-huh.
And there's some minimum funding in a defined benefit plan. It's for the actuary to calculate.